welcome to AT&T Uverse Buzz, where we give you an inside look at some of your favorite TV shows, as well as feature some of the great programming available to you through AT&T Uverse. I'm Kristin Adams, and today we are stepping back in time here at Plymouth Plantation in Massachusetts, a living, breathing, costume-friendly museum that relives the historic saga of Plymouth Colony.
Plymouth Plantation is a living history museum of the 17th century. Each person there has the role of someone who lived in Plymouth in 1627.
My name is Goodwife Cook, sir, and you are in New Plymouth here in New England.
The whole concept of living history is we take the words off the page and we make them into 3 dimensions.
I told once Carver, you don't come on board my ship.
People come here and they experience something. It's not just you read about it.
There, come here in.
This settlement played an important role in the first Thanksgiving, where European settlers and Native Americans came together to give thanks for a plentiful harvest and to stuff their faces with yummy food. The plantation is incredibly accurate in its reenactment of the colony. It's even got its own Mayflower ship. Now, come on, it doesn't get much better than that. Today, we'll board the Mayflower, tour the plantation, and give you the tips on how to cook an authentic Pilgrim feast. That's right, we're gonna cook like the Pilgrims cooked. We'll also preview some of the great programming Food Network has to offer. But right now, let's start our journey where the Pilgrims started theirs. It's time to batten down the hatches because there's a storm coming. We're boarding the Mayflower. The ship you see here is an actual replica of the Mayflower. Built in 1957, it's an authentic reproduction of a 17th century merchant vessel. I'm here with Richard Pickering, Deputy Director of Plymouth Plantation. Richard, thanks for talking with us.
Thank you for being here.
I want to first talk about the original Mayflower. Tell me about the journey and what that was like.
The original Mayflower crossed from England to Plymouth in 1620. On this little ship where you're sitting, 102 passengers crossed with a crew of roughly 24, many of whom were coming to America seeking the ability to worship as they wanted, some seeking profit and some seeking both. Can you imagine the conditions and the using of chamber pots down here? And the diet was not good. Much of it was salted meat, salted fish, dried vegetables.
Conditions on a ship are pretty awful. It's cramped, it's crowded, you are under the deck for a large part of the time. You're constantly trying to get some air and exercise up on the deck, but then you have to be careful you don't get washed overboard. It's what you endure in order to get from where you are to where you want to be.
How long did it take them to travel the Atlantic on Mayflower?
They were on this ship for a very long time because they started out in summer with a companion vessel called Speedwell, incapable of crossing, and they turned around twice. They arrived here in the middle of November 1620. Imagine being in this heavy rain, in the winter storms, just like today. And so those that celebrated the first Thanksgiving in the fall of 1621 were half of the company that started a year earlier.
Wow.
We come across thinking we might have a mild winter here, thinking you might have a winter wet to plant. But by the time we got here, it was blizzard and snow. It snowed. Dare say, the first day we come here.
Richard, thank you so much for giving us the history of Mayflower 2. I am itching to walk around this ship, so let's get started on our tour.
Excellent.
Okay, Richard, we are tween deck. What does that mean? Where are we?
That means we're between decks. There's one above and there is another below. This is where the 102 passengers lived, in cabins just like this.
And everybody was down here, all 102 passengers, and the animals they were traveling with?
Pigs, goats, chickens. We can only imagine the kind of friction in such close conditions.
How was the journey over?
Long. Alpha, you ever been locked in a room for 8 weeks? And had that room toss up and down again, all over the ocean.
So, Richard, we're here in the gun room. First of all, guns on the Mayflower, I had no idea.
Mayflower was a merchant vessel with precious cargo that she needed to protect. So ships were armed.
I'm trying to imagine these little pilgrims like wielding this huge gun.
And they brought cannons that would remain with them here in the village. And every boy over 16 years old served as a soldier till he was 60.
I like a pilgrim that packs. All right, Richard, we've made our way to the upper deck, and it is a serious torrential downpour happening right now, much like probably some of the storms they had to encounter.
Yes, exactly.
So what are we seeing up here?
Well, you're looking at all the masts and the rigging, and I think one of the most dramatic stories is in the middle of a storm, John Howland went overboard, and then they pulled him out of the surging sea.
So he made it.
He made it.
He lived.
Yes.
And was he just a passenger or
He was a
sailor?
passenger and should not have been above the deck during a storm.
I'm sure he learned his lesson. Can we go somewhere where we can get out of the rain?
We'd go to the forecastle.
Okay, let's go. All right, Richard, we've made our way to the forecastle. For a more modern term, it's the galley, the kitchen, where they would make food.
Yes, this is the furnace. This is also where the sailors would have slept, because when we were down 'tween decks, you saw there was no room for the crew, so they were sleeping here in the forecastle.
So tell me, how did the Mayflower get its name?
We don't know.
Really?
It's a very common name for ships. It's not at all unique. We know surprisingly little about Mayflower. The reproduction ship you're sitting in right now is reconstructed from one document. When the ship was sold, and there was a document describing what the ship looked like and its condition, what you're looking at is an amazing reconstruction.
How fun, what an experience.
It's amazing.
Richard, thank you so much for giving us the history of Mayflower 2, and it's time for us to head out to Plymouth Plantation.
Great. Thanks for being here.
Coming up, we'll see what life was actually like in the 17th century, plus we'll enjoy an authentic Pilgrim Thanksgiving dinner. But first, let's feast our eyes on the tasty programming Food Network has to offer.
Hey, y'all. You know, I think this is possibly my favorite time of year here in Savannah. It's Thanksgiving time. Got a fabulous day planned of fun and food. The boys are going to be making a juice-dripping deep-fried turkey, while I'm going to be making a very unique Thanksgiving dish, a delicious turducken. That's a turkey stuffed with a duck stuffed with a chicken. And then on the side, I'm gonna be cooking up a homegrown oyster dressing made with oysters we're digging up from the riverbanks ourselves. And then my mama's fried creamed corn and sweet potato balls that have a surprise inside each one. And then just about the yummiest apple butter pumpkin pie you've ever tasted. Y'all come enjoy some delicious food and some truly great Dean family traditions, because we're celebrating Thanksgiving Savannah style.
In addition, check out the new AT&T and Food Network app, which gives U-verse members a new interactive way to search for recipes, and on your TV, channel 457. Just a remote click away, get this month's mouth-watering selection from your favorite chefs, plus videos, photos, and more.